Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of RealSmart, free real estate education for consumers. So today we're going to be taking a look at two specific disclosures, the lead-based paint disclosure and the radon disclosure. These are two things that every seller needs to inform prospective buyers about, excuse me, regarding whether there's any lead-based paint or elevated radon issues in their property. So very important that both buyers and sellers know about these two documents. We're going to take a look at them today. We should get through this in 15 minutes or less. My name's Larry Shakman. I am the founder at REO Property Consultants. I'm also the broker and team lead at Luxe Group EXP. We have offices in downtown Naperville, also at 939 North Avenue in the city. So if you need help anywhere in Chicago Metro, throughout the country, or in Mexico, Canada, or Australia, let us know. We can help you out. Okay, let's check this out. And I'm going to bring up and share my screen with you. And we're going to bring up the radon disclosure. So this is and you should be looking right now at the disclosure of information on radon hazards. Remember, these documents are all regarding the Chicago Metro, Illinois market, and you're going to have very similar documents that you'll need to review if you're in other parts of the country. Typically, that will probably look similar to this, but these are specifically for the Chicago metro area. So disclosure of information on radon hazards. What is radon? Radon is a colorless, odorless, inert gas that emanates from below the surface of the earth and typically creeps up into your home through cracks, holes, or other things in your foundation. It's easy to mitigate if you do have an elevated radon reading, and an elevated radon reading is anything over 4.0 picocuries. So if you are above 4.0 picocuries, you're going to need to mitigate that elevated radon level. And the way that you can do that is very simple. It typically costs between $1,500 and $1,800 and takes about 3.5 hours for a contractor to do that. So let's take a look at this disclosure. And again, this is just meant to let any buyer know if there's an elevated radon reading in your property that you are aware of. So you are going to, the seller, I should say, is going to initial by A, B, C, or D, whichever is pertinent to their situation. So if the seller has no records or reports pertaining to elevated radon concentrations within the dwelling, they're going to initial here. If they have no knowledge of elevated radon concentrations, or prior elevated radon concentrations have been mitigated, then they're going to initial here. And the other two are just letting the buyers know that elevated radon concentrations are known to be present. You're going to initial there if you know that radon readings are above 4.0 picocuries. And B, seller has provided the purchaser with the most current records and reports pertaining to elevated radon concentrations within the dwelling. So if neither of those are appropriate, you're just going to sign initial C and D. This is where the purchaser is going to acknowledge that they've received copies of all information, and they've also received the approved radon disclosure pamphlet, which is required here in Illinois from their broker. And finally, agent's acknowledgement. Initial, if applicable, agent has informed the seller of the seller's obligations under Illinois law. This is where the listing agent would initial indicating that they have let the seller know what their responsibilities are when it comes to radon and disclosing any elevated radon levels. At the bottom, it's just a signature page, or the bottom is the signature part of the page. And that is the seller is going to sign and date, purchaser is going to sign and date, and both agents, seller and buyer's agent, is going to sign and date here. And of course, this is just the commonly known address of the property that's being sold. So pretty simple stuff. Remember, if you're above 4.0 picocuries, you're going to want to mitigate that elevated radon level. So that is the disclosure of information on radon hazards. Let's move on to the lead-based paint disclosure. So lead-based paint was used before 1978 in the interior of homes. After 1978, lead-based paint was no longer used. So if your home was built pre-1978 or previous, you want to give the buyer a lead-based paint disclosure to review. If your home was built after 1978, it is not necessary to provide a lead-based paint disclosure, not in Illinois. Remember, all real estate is local, so check with your local broker if you're out of Chicago Metro or Illinois. So the disclosure of information and acknowledgement on lead-based paint, very simple. You're going to have the commonly known address up here, and like the radon disclosure, you're just basically going to let the buyer know if you are aware of the presence of lead-based paint and or lead-based paint hazards. Are you aware that they are in the home? Do you have knowledge of lead-based paint or lead-based paint hazards in the housing? You're going to check one of those boxes off. And of course, if you have no knowledge, well, let's review this one more time. If you have no knowledge of lead-based paint and or lead-based paint hazards in the housing, you're going to check this box off. You're going to initial up here. If you do know of lead-based paint hazards, then you're going to check off that first box and you're going to initial in the same place. Sellers will also want to let buyers know if they have any records or reports. So if you do, you're going to check off one of these boxes. If you don't, same, initial here. This is the purchaser's acknowledgement that they've received all the information you have. They've also received the protect your family from lead in your home. This is also a required pamphlet all brokers need to give to their buyers here in Illinois. And E is interesting because the buyer can either ask for a 10-day opportunity to conduct a risk assessment and inspection for lead-based paint, or they can waive that. 99% of buyers waive it. And at the moving on, agent's acknowledgement, F, this is just the agent letting everyone know they have informed the seller of their obligations when letting the buyer know, I should say, of anything they know regarding lead-based paint in the home. So at the bottom, again, just the signature part of the page, seller, purchaser, agent. So these are two super important documents. They're required in Illinois. They're most likely required in most other parts of the country as well. So it's important that both buyers and sellers are acquainted with these two disclosures. And I hope this has helped. It's important that everybody is well acquainted with all disclosures and contracts, and we'll continue on with more great content like this so everybody knows exactly what they're signing and initialing and the importance of each document. So my name's Larry Shakman. Again, I am the team lead and broker at Luxe Group, EXP, downtown Naperville, 939 North Avenue in the city. If you need any help, please give me a call, 630-921-0611. And I hope this has been helpful. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you soon. By the way, if you're looking at this on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, or subscribe. We're going to have a lot of great content on there for consumers. Free education, free real estate education for consumers. Check us out. Okay, everybody, take care.